tonight a man goes kayaking in the open waters, a massive creature lurks beneath. And what happens next will leave you in absolute shock. It was supposed to be a peaceful day on the water. Adrián Simancas, a 24-year-old adventure enthusiast, had set out for a kayaking trip with his father along the Strait of Magellan in Chilean Patagonia. The region, known for its stunning scenery and rich marine life, was one of their favorite places to paddle. The cold water reflected the clear blue sky, and the wind carried the scent of salt and seaweed. It was a breathtaking sight, one that Adrián had enjoyed countless times before. As they paddled side by side, they admired the distant mountains, their peaks dusted with snow, standing tall beyond the shoreline. Sea lions lounged on rocky outcroppings, lazily basking in the afternoon sun. Birds soared overhead, diving occasionally to catch fish. While beneath the water, schools of fish shimmered as they darted in synchronized movements. But what made these waters particularly famous was something much bigger: humpback whales. These enormous creatures were a common sight in Patagonia, migrating through these waters every year. Adrián and his father had encountered them before, always at a safe distance. It was a magnificent experience, watching a whale breach the surface, exhaling a powerful spout of misty air before disappearing again into the depths. But on this particular day, they would have an encounter that neither of them would ever forget. Adrián had paddled slightly ahead of his father, enjoying the gentle rhythm of his movements as he cut through the water. He felt a deep sense of calm. The ocean had always been a place of peace for him, a place where he could disconnect from the rest of the world. But then something changed. A sudden movement beneath the water caught his eye. At first he thought it was just a large school of fish, their bodies flickering under the surface. But then a deep, guttural sound vibrated through the water, a low-frequency noise that he could feel in his chest. His instincts told him to stop paddling. Before he could process what was happening, the water directly beneath him erupted. Out of nowhere, an enormous humpback whale surged upwards, its massive mouth wide open. The force of the movement sent waves crashing around him, rocking his kayak violently. He barely had time to react before everything around him went dark. The next few seconds felt like an eternity. Adrián found himself in complete blackness. For the first few moments, he didn't even understand what had happened. One moment, he had been kayaking, and the next, he was inside something. The pressure around him was overwhelming, the air thick with the scent of salt and fish. He couldn't see anything, just complete, suffocating darkness. His mind went into panic mode. Was he going to die? Was this really happening? He tried to move, but the space around him was tight, pressing in from all directions. Back on the surface, his father watched in sheer horror. One second, his son was there, kayaking just ahead of him, and the next, he was gone. The massive whale had breached right beneath Adrián's kayak, and in doing so, had accidentally swallowed him whole. Adrián, still trapped inside, felt the pressure shift. He was being pulled downward, the movement of the whale's body creating an unbearable force against him. He knew he had to act fast. Desperate, he struggled, trying to push against the walls surrounding him. He could feel the rough, slit texture of the whale's mouth, but there was no solid surface to grab onto. Panic started to take over. The sound of his own heartbeat pounded in his ears. Was this really how it was going to end? Swallowed by a whale? And then suddenly, light. The whale, realizing something was off, reacted instinctively. Humpback whales are filter feeders, meaning they eat by taking in massive amounts of water and krill before expelling the excess through their baleen plates. But Adrian was not krill, and the whale knew it. In a sudden, powerful motion, the whale spat him out. Adrian felt himself being thrust forward, the force sending him tumbling through the water. He had no sense of direction, no idea which way was up. All he could do was hold his breath and hope that he would break the surface soon. His father, still frozen in shock, suddenly saw his son reappear from the water. Gasping for air, Adrian surfaced, his eyes wide with disbelief. His father didn't hesitate. Paddling furiously, he reached his son within seconds, grabbing onto him and stabilizing him next to the kayak. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice shaking. Adrian, still catching his breath, could barely speak. "I think I was inside the whale." They sat there for a moment, floating in stunned silence, before the reality of what had just happened began to set in. Marine experts later explained that Adrian had been the victim of a freak accident. Humpback whales don't hunt large prey. They feed by lunging forward with their mouths open, scooping up huge amounts of water, krill, and small fish before filtering out what they don't need. Adrian had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Scientists emphasized that this was not an attack. The whale had no intention of eating him and likely realized almost immediately that something was wrong. It had expelled him before he could be pulled deeper, which was likely what saved his life. Back on shore, the shock of what had happened truly hit Adrian. The news of his unbelievable survival spread quickly, making headlines around the world. Many compared it to the biblical story of Jonah or famous survival tales from history. But for Adrian, this wasn't a legend. It wasn't a story. It was real. He had experienced something that very few people on Earth ever have, being swallowed by one of the largest creatures on the planet and living to tell the tale. So, what do you think? Would you ever go kayaking again after something like this? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible real-life stories. Because sometimes the ocean reminds us that no matter how much we think we understand nature, there are still mysteries lurking beneath the surface.